What is going on, Pats Nation? It's your boy Colby, also known as Patriots Global, back here with another one. And today we are doing a long-awaited Q&A following free agency, following the 2025 NFL Draft. Today's live stream is going to be powered by you guys, the viewers. And what I mean by that is you guys are going to drop in the comment section below any questions that you have that are Patriots related, questions you have about free agency, questions you have about the draft, directions of this team, prospects, anything of that sort. Drop in the comment section below. And for about the next hour or so, we are going to be answering your guys' questions live here on air. I do want to start off, though, with the glaring question. The main topic of today that I think a lot of Patriots fans are wondering following the success of the 2025 NFL Draft, and that is the question on, are the New England Patriots contenders? In fact, let's write that down here. Are the Patriots contenders? Oh, I actually spelled Patriots wrong. That's crazy. Guess I'm going back to school. All right. Are the Patriots contenders? We're going to start off here with that question. And in my own personal opinion, based off of what the Patriots have done, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I'm not trying to go off for the hype of the offseason, but based off of what the Patriots have done this offseason, combined with what we saw from some key players last year, I really do. I really think that the New England Patriots are playoff contenders. Now, am I telling you that they are the Buffalo Bills? Am I telling you that they are the Ravens or that they are the Chiefs? Anything like that? No. Okay, there was a lot of competition in the AFC, and the AFC is only getting better, and better. You got the Jags, who feel like they can maybe be on an upward trajectory. You obviously had the Broncos make the postseason last year. They had a really good, offseason, building on top of what they did with Bo Nix this past year. Then you got the Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert and that team under Harbaugh, they're getting better. But I do think that the Patriots can be on the same wavelength as a lot of those other teams at the bottom of the AFC. I think the Patriots can go pound for pound based off of what they did this offseason with personnel, based off of what they did with the coaching staff. I think they can go pound for pound with the Broncos. I think they could go pound for pound with the Chargers. I think they can go pound for pound with the Texans. Am I saying that confidently the Patriots are going to beat those teams? No. What I'm saying is that in a game, could the Patriots realistically go up against that caliber of team and beat them? Yes, I do believe so. And in this upcoming season, I'm not confidently telling you that the Patriots are a playoff team or that they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not telling you that. But it wouldn't surprise me if this was a 2023 Houston Texans team. And what I mean by that is that the Patriots start off slow. And that's not going to surprise me at all. I think that's my expectation. My early expectation for this team is that they're more than likely going to start off slow. Mike Vrabel, this is the first time he's been a head coach, for the last couple of years. You also look at the fact that Josh McDaniels back as the Patriots offensive coordinator. He hasn't been in that role since 2021. Terrell Williams is a first-time defensive coordinator. This coaching staff in general has never worked cohesively as a unit together. On top of all of the new players that the Patriots brought in, Stefon Diggs, Matt Collins, Kyle Williams, a brand new offensive line. The O-line, of course, is also built on continuity and just the chemistry amongst each other. Defensive side of the football, there's a lot of new guys there, especially in the trenches. So I think early on, we are going to see the Patriots struggle just a little bit. But I think they're going to pick up steam as each week goes on. My early prediction is that the Patriots, they're not going to look as good as everybody's expecting them to throughout the first month, throughout the first 4 weeks. And everybody's going to, jump off the high horse. All the fans, everybody in the media is going to be like, did we overhype the Patriots? And it's like, no. They're just picking up steam. They're ironing out the wrinkles that a first-year system is, of course, going to have. But I think as the weeks go on, as the months go on, the Patriots are going to get better, and better. And I could see it being a situation to where the Patriots have to win the final game of the season to get into the postseason, or it's one of those situations where they need a specific team to either win or lose to thrust them into the postseason. But I 100% see the Patriots as a true, legit playoff contender. They are going to push to make the playoffs. They got much better coaching. They upgraded at the most important positions. They are building around Drake Maye. And if there's one positive we got from this past season, it was Drake Maye. We saw that as bad as that offensive line was, worst in the league throughout 18 weeks, there was never a point where the Patriots weren't dead last in the NFL. Drake Maye made that offense look better. He showed that potential. I mean, how many times can we go back to these plays? I mean, the plays he made against the Houston Texans week 1, the play he made out of structure against the Tennessee Titans with clock expiring, throws off his back foot with 2 defenders in his face, pocket breaks down as soon as he snaps the ball, but throws off his back foot, and Ramondre Stevenson touchdown, and this game's going into overtime. Now, just imagine what Drake Maye can do with an offensive line that is significantly upgraded, with weapons that are significantly upgraded, with an actual offensive coordinator who's one of the best offensive coordinator minds in the entire National Football League. As inconsistent as the defense was this past year, I think that came down to DeMarcus Covington, and I think it came down to a lack of identity and a lack of discipline. I expect this defense to easily be top 10 in the NFL with the potential to be top 5, and I expect this offense to honestly be at least average. You know, I'm not saying they're going to be great. I'm not saying they're going to be top 10, but I think that this can be an average offense. And if the Patriots can have a top 5, top 10 defense with an at least average offense, go back to having the best special teams unit, a top 3 special teams unit in the NFL, I don't see why this team cannot truly contend and push to make one of those final spots there, a wild card spot in the NFL playoffs. But what do you guys think? Do you think that the New England Patriots can be contenders based off of what they've done? And before we start answering these questions, I actually want to look at some of the moves that they've made in terms of, let's bring it up, in terms of their current depth chart, right? So I want to start off here on the offensive side of the football, kind of back up what I was saying. Where did the banner go? Where did that banner go? There we go. But I want to back up some of the things that I was saying here because I don't think everybody necessarily gives the credit to Elliott Wolf and Mike Vrabel for some of the big offseason additions they made. So looking at the quarterback position, you obviously got Drake Maye as your starter, but I think that, you know, Josh Dobbs, I actually like Josh Dobbs a little bit more from a football player standpoint than I like Jacoby Brissett. Now, I like Jacoby Brissett from a mentor standpoint, from a guy who's just a really good presence for Drake Maye. But Joshua Dobbs is also a really, really good person. He's played with multiple different teams in the NFL. I feel like he's played for half the teams in the league at this point. But he's someone that I think fits the system really well. He's someone who, if Drake Maye does ultimately go down, which knock on wood, that doesn't happen, Joshua Dobbs is the player that can come in and have a very similar playing style to Drake Maye. Now, no, he's not as good as Drake Maye, but Josh Dobbs is mobile. He can extend plays. Josh Dobbs has, you know, a pretty underrated arm. It's just those inconsistencies to Josh Dobbs' game as to why he's not a starter. But if Drake Maye is out for a game, 2 games, 3 games, Josh Dobbs can definitely come in and win you games. And we've seen that whether he was with the Vikings, whether he was with the Niners. So I do think from a football standpoint, Josh Dobbs is definitely an upgrade at quarterback too. Looking at the running back position, Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is still going to be that number 1 guy. And we talked about this when we broke down Trevion Henderson when he was drafted by the Patriots, broke down his draft profile, broke down my reactions on him. You guys can check that out. That live stream is still up here on the channel. But I said Ramondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson, like, that is going to be your 2-headed monster. Everybody trying to say that it's Trevion Henderson and Antonio Gibson. I don't think so. Now, I think a lot of people also think that, okay, by drafting Trevion Henderson, Ramondre or Gibson is that guy on the outside looking in. And I don't necessarily think so. Now, I do think there is going to be a battle for these running backs come training camp. But, you know, you look at it and, you know, Josh McDaniels was iconic during his time in New England for running back by committee. He was not that bell cow running back. He wasn't a split running back type of offensive coordinator. And what I mean by that is, you know, Ramondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson, we're going to split you guys 50-50 snaps every single week. Oh no, Ramondre's at 60% of snaps and Trevion is at 40. We got to give Trevion more snaps. That is not what they're going to do. And, you know, you look at Josh McDaniels, you look at some of the running back course he had during his time in New England. You have Sony Michel on the roster, James White on the roster, you know, who else? Rex Burkhead on the roster. You'd have Brandon Bolden on the roster. they were a team that would carry 3-4 starting running backs every single year. This is not the same offensive system we've seen the last couple of years, folks. This is not the offensive scheme that we saw under the Teapot. This is, Bill O'Brien. This is not the offensive scheme that we saw this past year under AVP. This isn't the offensive system we saw in 2022 under Matt Patricia. This is simply going to be running back by committee. And I think the running back that gets more opportunities any given week is the guy that holds onto the ball, the guy that is most consistent. But I also think it's going to come down to the guy that fits that defense they're going up against the best, right? Because if you want a guy who's going to have a little bit more speed to him, you need a guy who's going to be a better receiving back, a guy that, maybe you want to use as an extra offensive lineman to come and block for you, when you're playing up against a defense that has a really good pass rush. TreVeyon Henderson probably is going to get more snaps. But if you need a guy who's just going to run through a brick wall, he's going to get you those tough yards, then Ramondre Stevenson is going to be your guy. So, you look at this running back core compared to last year, and I definitely think that it is an upgrade because what TreVeyon Henderson is going to bring this team is that 4-4 home run hitting running back that they have not had in a while. They tried to get that, home run speed running back in 2022 with Pierre Strong, but they never really gave him the opportunity to develop, to be anything. And let's be honest, TreVeyon Henderson is also miles better than what Pierre Strong ever was and ever will be. So the change of pace back that they're getting with TreVeyon, I think is very, very different than any other running back they've had here in a long time. It gives them a receiving back. It gives them easily their best pass blocking running back on the roster. And that was a problem for the Patriots in recent years, was having a running back that could stay back and pick up the blitz. And TreVeyon Henderson is going to body guys that try to blitz Drake Maye if he's staying back there and blocking for him. So again, I like where the quarterback 2 position was upgraded. I like how this running back room has been upgraded. You look at wide receiver, that has obviously been very, very upgraded. I mean, last year, you drafted Javon Baker and Jalen Polk thinking that those guys were going to take a big leap for you. Now, I think, again, that ultimately comes down to the scheme. I think the coaching, the lack of discipline, the lack of an actual identity for the Patriots last year, why those guys struggled as much as they did. But, you had Tyquan Thornton. Thought maybe he would take a leap last year. He didn't do so. He's not on the team. You're hoping that Kendrick Bourne was going to come back and be that guy in the locker room. But, he was kind of playing pickup all season because he was injured all offseason, all training camp. And sometimes those injuries even take a year for players to come back from. So we really didn't get much from him. Javon Baker never saw the field because in practice, he wasn't able to line up correctly. He didn't know the plays. I think Jalen Polk showed promise last year early on in the season, and then he fell off. Elliot Wolf said a big reason for that fall off was actually because of the Patriots. They put, too much on his plate than he was actually ready for. But now you get Stefon Diggs. And Stefon Diggs is easily the number 1 wide receiver on this team. I don't think that Stefon Diggs is Buffalo Bills Stefon Diggs, but I do still think he's the best wide receiver the Patriots have had in years. He's a veteran. I still think that he can produce, 900 to at maximum low 1,000 yards, which if the Patriots can even get that from wide receiver 1, that is significantly better than they've had in years. The last 1,000 yard receiver they had was 2019 Julian Edelman. So it's been a minute. You look at Demario Douglas, I think with a better offensive line, with an offensive coordinator that knows how to use him, Demario Douglas is going to be a lot more productive. This past season, Demario Douglas was one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League in getting separation against man coverage. The thing is that, Demario with that quickness, with that speed, he's going to test defenses vertically. He's going to, operate really well in the intermediate to deep sections of the field, but we didn't have an offensive line that could consistently get him the ball down the field. So I think he's going to be more productive this year. You have Kyle Williams, who the Patriots just drafted, who honestly, I think learning behind Stefon Diggs is going to be huge for Kyle Williams because there's a lot of similarities between those two. Williams is going to be a guy that's like the fastest guy on the roster immediately. I think he's going to play in the slot. He's going to play outside. He's your best wide receiver against man coverage. Kyle Williams was number 1 amongst wide receivers in touchdowns against man coverage this past season at the collegiate level out of all wide receiver prospects in the 2025 NFL draft. He was also top 3 in yards against man coverage in the 2025 draft amongst wide receivers in the 2025 NFL draft. So a big upgrade that the Patriots are getting there. You have Mac Hollins, who's going to be a poised veteran, statistically had one of his best seasons in Vegas when Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator. So I think he's kind of that insurance policy in case somebody like Kendrick Bourne just never returns back to that old veteran form that we've known to love. But even then, I think Kendrick Bourne is going to push to make the roster. He had one of his best statistical seasons under Josh McDaniels in 2021, where he put up just under 1,000 total yards. I think a lot of people forget about that. So, this wide receiver core, still not one of the best in the NFL, but we are heading into 2025 saying that the Patriots finally do not have the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. I think tight end is pretty much the same. And then you look at this offensive line, and there was a graphic that I saw on Instagram, and I wonder if I can send it to myself here real quick, just to give you guys a little bit better of an understanding. Now, the graphic's not mine. I want to make that clear. Graphic's not mine. Actually, I'm going to pull that up for you, because I want you guys to know just how big of an upgrade this offensive line is. So this was from Patriots Focus and my boy Rob, Patriots7 on Instagram. They collabed on a really nice graphic. I want to share it with you guys. So make sure you guys go ahead, show both of these guys some love again. I didn't make this graphic, but I did want to pull it up and show you guys. So this was the offensive line for the Patriots, the starting offensive line in 2024. This is now your projected offensive line here at the bottom for 2025. Vidarian Lowe was your starting left tackle. And I think Vidarian Lowe is a depth guy. Vidarian Lowe is like, at best a swing tackle. But Vidarian Lowe is not a guy you want starting for you for an entire season. Now, Vidarian Lowe was way better at left tackle than right tackle, but that bar wasn't exactly high. He was not playable over at right tackle in 2023. You're now getting Will Campbell, a first-round projection, who out his 3 years at LSU only allowed 4 total sacks. With Jaden Daniels in 2023, he allowed 0 sacks. So you're getting a massive, massive upgrade over there at left tackle. This is going to be the best left tackle that I think the Patriots have had since, oh my God, what? Maybe like 2018 Trent Brown, because Trent Brown balled that season. But I think Will Campbell could be even better than that. So it's been a long time since the Patriots have had a good left tackle. And Will Campbell, I think, is a massive, massive upgrade over Vidarian Lowe. Then you move over to left guard. You had Layden Robinson at left guard, but really you had everybody and their mother over at left guard this past season. You also had Michael Jordan playing there a significant amount of time. I mean, left guard was a revolving door for the Patriots this past season. I would say that's still the biggest question mark on this offensive line. Who's going to play there? Because it's going to be between Cole Strange. I think Jared Wilson will get an opportunity to play there. Layden Robinson, City So. But what I will say is that with much better coaching there on the offensive line, Doug Marrone, they got 3 total veteran offensive line coaches in this coaching staff now. Between those 4 guys that I just listed, you got to think that Josh McDaniels, this coaching staff, they figure out how to make one of those 4 guys be at least average there at left guard. And I think they will find a way in doing so, whether that's Cole Strange, whether that's Layden Robinson, whether it's Jared Wilson, whether it is City So. I do think when they find continuity and they just solidify one guy at left guard, that position will also get a lot better. Center there, you had Ben Brown. And you know what? I think Ben Brown is a good backup. I'm more than okay with him being the backup. They did release Jake Andrews today, by the way. The 4th round pick from Belichick in 2023, who never saw the field, never saw the light of day. He was released. So he's officially not competing for a roster spot. I think, Ben Brown is going to compete to be your backup. I think at center, it's going to be interesting because I think that the only true competition is Jared Wilson going to be your starting center, or is Garrett Bradbury going to be your starting center? So I think those guys are going to kind of like duke it out one-on-one for who's your starter. But if I'm the Patriots, I'm keeping Ben Brown and I'm keeping Garrett Wilson, or Garrett Bradbury, Garrett Bradbury both on the roster, because I think that, Ben Brown, Garrett Bradbury, both are guys that can have that versatility on the interior of the O-line. Nonetheless, a big upgrade at center. You go to right guard, and, even though Michael Onwenu was your right guard this past year, he wasn't consistently the right guard. He went from right tackle to right guard, from right tackle to right guard. He was switching a lot. I think with Mike Onwenu, just practicing in one spot all offseason, playing in one spot all year, I think we'll get back to that 2022 version of Michael Onwenu, where he didn't allow a single sack until the second to last game of the 2022 season. I believe it was against the Buffalo Bills or the Miami. No, it was against the Miami Dolphins, where he allowed his first sack on the season, and he was like second team All-Pro or something like that. So Michael Onwenu, I think, is a big upgrade from Michael Onwenu this past season. And then this is one I cannot stress enough: Demontre Jacobs, guys, a former defensive tackle converted to right tackle. So I think that says enough within itself. No disrespect to Demontre Jacobs. He was thrusted into a position that realistically he never should have been in. But Morgan Moses, definitely one of the better right tackles in the NFL. I know he's getting older, but he is still a crazy, crazy upgrade over what the Patriots have had as of late there at that right tackle position, whether it's Michael Onwenu or whether it's Demontre Jacobs. So that offensive line takes a massive, massive leap forward too. And, I say this to you guys all the time, but that offensive line is like the engine to a car, right? All offensive production starts with the offensive line. You want to run the ball effectively? You need blockers, because I don't care how good your running back is. If you got 4 defenders in the backfield, as soon as that ball's being handed off, it simply is not going to matter. I don't care if it's Saquon Barkley. I don't care if it's Derrick Henry. Those guys are not breaking 4 defenders and bouncing off, a 20-yard run. That's just not realistic. If you want to get your return on investment in the passing game, well, your quarterback needs to be upright for him to actually get the ball out. Those wide receivers need enough time to get in and out of their breaks. I don't care what type of offensive production you want. You need good blockers up front. And I think that this Patriots offense is going to take such a leap forward. I think everybody's going to find an excuse to not give the credit to the O-line. I think everybody's going to be like, oh, well, Josh McDaniels is back. It's because of him. Oh, it's because of Doug Marrone. Oh, it's because of Drake Maye taking the leap forward. Oh, it's because of the upgrade at wide receivers. And all of that will help significantly for sure. But it all is going to start up front in the trenches because of this offensive line. Real quick, though, I do want to, before we get into this Q&A and we continue on, I do also want to break down the defense and talk about why the defense is such an upgrade and, why I think the Patriots are going to be a dark horse playoff team. So let me pull back up that depth chart. All right, there we go. So looking at this defense, starting in the defensive line, trenches are the second most important thing in football behind the quarterback position. As Mike Vrabel himself has said, games are won in the trenches, right? Philadelphia Eagles are a beautiful example of that. This past season, your number one interior defensive lineman was Davon Godchaux, a guy that the season prior was one of the worst interior defensive linemen that PFF records. And they had like 160 interior defensive linemen. So realistically, Davon Godchaux, in 2023 was playing like a practice squatter. And I think he was better this past year, but he certainly was not a starter. He certainly was not performing up to par. Now you got Milton Williams, who is definitely good against the run, but he took a big leap forward this past season in terms of pass rush from the interior. He was the second best interior defensive lineman in pass rush, according to PFF this past season. That is a massive upgrade. Of course, you're also getting Christian Barmore back. Big question for Barmore is going to be, what exactly are you getting from him, right? Are you getting 2023 Barmore? Can he return to his old form? Him coming back from a serious health condition like blood clots, it's hard to really know what to expect, but if they can get him back to the form that he originally was, especially next to Milton Williams, that immediately becomes one of the best interior D-lines in the entire National Football League. And there's so much value in having a good interior D-line. And I say this to you guys all the time, but I want to say it again for anybody that's new. It's one thing to have good edge players. If you have good edge players, they're going to collapse the pocket from the outside, but that quarterback, he's still going to step up tall in the pocket and deliver a throw. But if the interior of an opposing offensive line breaks down, that quarterback's got nowhere to go. They're throwing off platform. They're getting sacked. They're throwing interceptions. They're throwing the ball away. They got nowhere to step up. So they're essentially screwed. And that's why there's so much value in having a guy in the interior of the D-line that can get to the quarterback. The Patriots now have one of the best in the NFL to do so in Milton Williams. They had a guy that was top 10 in rushing the passer over the last 3 years in Christian Barmore. Again, as long as he can return back to his prior form. And now you also have Joshua Farmer, who the Patriots drafted there late in the 4th round just a couple of days ago, who is about a, second, third round projection. Well, more so a 3rd round projection. So great value there. And Joshua Farmer was one of the best pass rushers from an interior defensive lineman perspective out of all guys in the 2025 class. So the Patriots are really, really upgrading their pass rush department there from the interior of the D-line. I think even if you look at these edge rushers, that's also an upgrade for the Patriots. I don't think Harold Landry is elite at getting to the quarterback, but he's really, really good at stopping the run. You look at the Patriots having Harold Landry and Anthony Jennings, they immediately have 2 of the best edge rushers in the NFL when it comes to productivity in stopping the run. One of the biggest issues for the Patriots this past year was stopping the run defensively. And now they have some of the best in the NFL, not just at rushing the passer, but some of the best in the NFL at stopping the run. On the edge, Harold Landry. On the edge, you got Anthony Jennings. Even from, a linebacker's perspective, Robert Spillane since 2022, 2023 is one of the best defenders, period, in the league at stopping the run. So all around, I just think this defense has gotten significantly better. I think the linebacker core is going to be upgraded. Robert Spillane, very underrated player. Christian Ellis, unsung hero of this past season. I think he really developed down the stretch. Even looking at Keon White, I think he'll finally be utilized correctly. I think Keon White was just so upset with, the Patriots' lack of winning, the lack of discipline, the lack of identity, knowing that he wasn't being developed or utilized correctly. I think that's why he wanted to be traded before, Jerod Mayo was fired. Now that there is an actual coaching staff in place, now that you got Terrell Williams, a defensive line coach who's been very productive, whether it was with the Tennessee Titans or the Detroit Lions, you obviously got Mike Vrabel. I expect Keon White to be more disciplined, and I also expect him to take it to the next level. Even in the secondary, I think they finally solidified that. Carlton Davis is your cornerback 2. Gonzo's your cornerback 1. That is one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL. They got a stacked safety core. I don't have any question marks about strong safety. I think the Patriots got more than enough of those guys. I think we're going to see some surprise cuts in the secondary, by the end of roster cutdowns there. I think my biggest question when it comes to this defense is definitely who's going to play free safety. I expect that, Craig Woodson is going to fight to be a guy who takes over as that starting free safety. But, they got Marcus Epps, a veteran in the building. They got Jalen Hawkins, who was here last year. Marcus Epps and Jalen Hawkins are both very, very average free safeties. In fact, both of those guys are very mid at best in coverage, good at stopping the run. But I want someone who's going to be consistent in coverage as my last line of defense there deep in the secondary. So I think that, a lot of people are, predicting Craig Woodson to, not be much of a guy early on. People are projecting that he's going to be a guy who plays special teams earlier. They're projecting him to be someone who is a rotational guy in that secondary. Maybe it's a hot take. And even this depth chart from ESPN has him as that 4th guy. Maybe it's a hot take, but as long as Craig Woodson can hit the ground running, I think he has a good chance at being that starting free safety, because right now the competition level there is just not high. But overall, offensively, defensively, pretty much at every single position, the Patriots have upgraded. They upgraded at the most important spot that has nothing to do with personnel, and that is, of course, the coaching staff. I think that's also going to go a long way. But now let's transition over to the Q&A. Let's start getting into some of your guys' questions here. Of course, we always have to start with the donations. If you want to make sure your question, your comment, your concern is 100% guaranteed to get an answer, the best way at doing so is by Super Chat. Shout out to my boy Trey, who comes in here with a $5 donation. He already says, I'll answer the question for you, Colby. So it sounds like Trey doesn't agree with me. He says, no, not yet. One more solid offseason and draft will solidify it. So the way that I see it is, again, we're not like guaranteed a playoff spot. Like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, those teams, are making the postseason. Like if they don't make the postseason, that is a failed season in and of itself immediately. For the Patriots, if they have 8-9 wins, but they still miss the playoffs, us Patriots fans are going to be like, you know what? All right, I'll take it. Step in the right direction. Best season we've had in like 3 years. We had 2 back-to-back seasons of 4 wins. I'll take 8 or 9 wins and missing the playoffs, right? But I do think, given the coaching staff, given the massive upgrade offensively, defensively that I just broke down, I do think that they can, again, be one of these final teams to compete for a wild card spot. I think they'll compete with the Broncos. I think they'll compete with the Chargers. I think they'll compete with the Texans. I think they'll compete with some of these other dark horse teams in the AFC. But that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Owen says 6 wins is the floor, 10 wins is the ceiling. Owen, I actually think I agree with you, like completely. I think that their floor is 6 wins. Keep in mind, too, guys, over the last 2 years, the Patriots have had one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. 2023, they had the hardest schedule. 2024, they had the second hardest schedule in the NFL. Now, this year, it's not like they have one of the easiest, but it's at least significantly easier compared to what it's been in recent years. So I agree with you, Owen. I think 6 wins would be the Patriots' floor. About 10 wins is the ceiling. Right now, the over-under for wins for the Patriots this upcoming season is 7.5. Me personally, I'm taking the over. Now we have to see too how the offseason goes, right? Because knock on wood, I don't even want to say this to put it out there, but I gotta say it. So everybody knock on wood from me right now. But if there's potential injuries during the offseason, that obviously could put the Patriots back big time, depending on how big those players are. But as long as the Patriots are healthy, knock on wood, everyone, then I think we're good. Yo, PG, are you going to be doing watch parties this season? Hey, man, you guys loved the watch parties last year. So for those who don't know, I did a live watch party every single Patriots game day. So for every Patriots game, I would go live. We wouldn't necessarily, I couldn't put the game up on the screen, obviously, but we would watch the game together. You guys would get my live real reactions. I'd break down what's going on in the game. And then after that, we would do a post-game stream breaking down everything that happened. So game days were so long every single week, man. They took the heck out of me, but you better believe we're doing the same thing this season. I think that this is a really, really good question. I'm really glad that this was asked because I want to make sure that I get the exact pick right. So let me pull this up because this is the guy we didn't talk about yet, right? For the majority of the Patriots 2025 draft class, I have breakdowns on all those guys. You guys see it pinned in the comment section right now in the live chat. I have broken down an analysis, my reaction to pretty much every single pick the Patriots have made in the 2025 NFL draft. The only guys that I haven't broken down were, make sure I get the names right here. So I didn't break down Mr. Irrelevant Kobe Minor. I didn't break down Julian Ashby, the long snapper. I didn't break down Marcus Bryant, the offensive tackle. And I didn't break down Andreas Borgalis, the kicker. And we can definitely talk about those guys right now if you guys want. I just haven't gotten around to making any videos on them, but I do have my thoughts on them, period. But so for those who don't know, it was the Patriots' second to last pick in the NFL draft. And they took in the 7th round, pick 251, long snapper Julian Ashby out of Vanderbilt. So we got a question coming up here and it says, hey, Colby, can you give your thoughts on Joe Cardona's 2025 roster status? From what has been reported, the Patriots are turning over this roster. You guys have started to see it, right? We've had some fan favorites out of the building, and we kind of couldn't believe our eyes. The biggest one that stands out to me is Juwan Bentley. Everybody thought Juwan Bentley was making the roster. He's a good player. He was a captain. He's been a pivotal piece in this defense for years. But Mike Vrabel came in and said, nope, I don't care your status. I don't care how good you were. I don't care how much the fans love you. I don't care if you were a captain. If I don't see you as a part of this team's success moving forward, you're simply not going to make the roster. And Joe Cardona is now the longest tenured New England Patriot left on the roster. Joe Cardona is also the only player left on this roster from the Super Bowl era of the New England Patriots original dynasty with Brady and Belichick. Everybody's pinning Joe Cardona in as an immediate roster lock for obvious reasons. Again, he's a veteran. He's a good long snapper. He is an he was in the Army and whatnot too. So I think that gives him a little bit of a boost also. But I don't have him as a lock. I mean, how old is Joe Cardona at this point? Let's look it up. I feel like people always forget about Cardona because he's a long snapper. You don't see him much. Joe Cardona he's 33. Right? So he's definitely getting up there in age. Now the Patriots have Julian Ashby, who is significantly younger, and they used a draft pick on. So I think it's going to be a battle there in training camp. But right now, I'm going to give, the upper hand here to Julian Ashby. And I could see it being a situation where Joe Cardona gets cut, he gets released, and all these Patriots fans are like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening here? How are they releasing Joe Cardona? And it's like, because the new era is here. Right? The Patriots want to get younger. As crazy as it sounds, Mike Vrabel really doesn't want ties back to the old, organization. He doesn't want guys who are tied back to Brady, Belichick. He doesn't want guys who are tied back to the former Super Bowl window that the Patriots used to have. This is a new era. This is a new team. This is Mike Vrabel's team, and he wants to make sure that people understand this is not the New England Patriots 1.5. This is New England Patriots 2.0. It is completely brand new. And Ashby, he's younger. He's very, very athletic. And for those wondering, why do you use a draft pick at all on a long snapper? Why didn't the Patriots just pick up Julian Ashby as a UDFA. The reason that the Patriots, and this is per Mike Garafolo, he is very tied in there with NFL Network. He reported after the pick that the reason the Patriots drafted Julian Ashby was because he was expected to have a strong market when UDFA started, when those UDFA signings started, and the Patriots wouldn't have been guaranteed to get him because of how big his market was. So the Patriots said, we're going to use a draft pick on him to make sure we secure him. So I think that was a really good question. Let's see. What other questions do we got here? What other questions do we got? Make sure you guys drop your comments or your questions in the comment section below. This is a heavy-driven Q&A live stream here for you guys today. Tomorrow, we will have grades. Tomorrow, we're doing the 2025 NFL Draft grades. Let's see. Let's scroll down, see if we got any fresh comments rolling in. Do you think we have the right personnel for the new defense? I do. I really, really do. I mean, look, getting rid of the cornerbacks coach whose name, Mike Pellegrino, right? Getting rid of Mike Pellegrino to me was a bit of a questionable decision. I was a big fan of Mike Pellegrino. Now Pellegrino is working with the in-division rival Buffalo Bills. But you can see that with this defensive coaching staff, with the personnel that they have, from a coaching standpoint, I know that you're talking about, the actual players, but just talking about from a coaching standpoint, there's a lot of continuity with these guys. And I think having continuity is so important. And you have Terrell Williams, who has that chemistry back with Mike Vrabel. He was a really, really good defensive line coach for the Tennessee Titans, but he was also a really good D-line coach here for the Detroit Lions. This past season, Detroit had a lot of injuries on that D-line, from edge rusher to defensive tackle. They were cycling through guys all season, and yet Terrell Williams still made those guys look really, really good. So I believe in his ability to be a defensive line coach. I believe that Mike Vrabel is still going to have his say in this defense a little bit, which I think will also go a long way. And when it comes to personnel, from a player standpoint, I definitely think that the Patriots have the right personnel, because you see that the guys that didn't fit this new defense, that Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams defense, guys who didn't fit that have been cycled out. Juwan Bentley didn't make sense. Juwan Bentley is someone who was a big thumping linebacker. He was always going to be around the ball. He was going to make tackles. He was good at stopping the run. But other than that, that was it. He really didn't have much coverage ability. He wasn't a guy that set the edge. He wasn't really a guy that went after the quarterback. And Mike Vrabel said that doesn't really fit our defense. So although you're a great player, although you're a fan favorite, we are going to have to get rid of you. Mike Vrabel's making those hard decisions. Elliott Wolf is making those hard decisions. And you even look at that defensive line. Like I alluded to, when Mike Vrabel first got here, the Patriots really didn't have much pass rush on that D-line, especially from the interior. What do? They go out there, they get Kyrese Tonga, a veteran defensive lineman who's pretty good at getting to the quarterback. They draft Joshua Farmer, a guy who's really good at getting to the quarterback through the NFL draft. They pick up Milton Williams, the second best interior defensive lineman at rushing the quarterback, on top of having Christian Barmore. The type of defense that Mike Vrabel likes to run, more specifically, the defensive linemen he likes to have, are guys that are poised at getting to the quarterback. Guys that, yes, they're not a liability at stopping the run, but more specifically are guys that can get that pressure on the quarterback in all three phases, whether you're an edge rusher, whether you're a defensive tackle. That's why you'll see that the cornerbacks they've picked up, the linebackers they've picked up, those guys have actually been significantly better at stopping the run. Why do they want those linebackers? Why do they want those cornerbacks that are good, that are elite at stopping the run? Because they know that with their defensive linemen, their main priority is going to be making sure that they get to the quarterback. So they want to make sure that that second and third line of defense are going to be able to stop the run. Very good question. We got some super chats here I want to get into. My boy SGT Moonshine comes in here and he says, have you looked into any of the UDFAs? Got a couple guys that I'm going to be watching for during training camp, like Lan Larson, the running back, Efton Chasman, the wide receiver, and Brandon Crossley, the cornerback / safety. SGT Moonshine, you're getting ahead of me, man. You're getting ahead of me. I got a video that's going to drop this week on my favorite UDFAs. So I'll go into a little bit right now as like a sneak peek, but you guys can expect more of a breakdown here a little bit later on. But you actually named the majority of my guys. Like Land Larson, the running back, I think that he's going to compete to be in this running back core this upcoming season. At the very least, he's going to be competing for somebody who's going to be on the practice squad, somebody who's going to be like a priority elevation any given week. But I think that he is a name to watch. Like Land Larson was a guy that some people thought could be drafted. Now he's a guy who's just going to run through people, but man, like those white running backs, I'm just going to say it. Those white running backs have always been iconic in New England. So Land Larson, come on up, man, because you could be my new Rex Burkhead, Danny White, like any day, baby, any day. Come on, I need my new Rex Burkhead. I think Land Larson can be that. Efton, I believe I'm saying this right, by the way. Efton Chisholm, the wide receiver, he's also somebody that I've had my eye on. He's like that Josh McDaniels slot receiver. So although the Patriots didn't go out there in the draft and get like a Jalen Noel, get a guy who you felt could confidently take over as that Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, maybe they have that guy as a UDFA. Now, it's going to be really hard for him to make the roster because this wide receiver core is loaded, but they are bringing real competition to that wide receiver core this offseason through training camp. I think it's going to be really fun to watch, but, Efton Chisholm, another guy that we definitely need to watch as a UDFA. But my favorite, make sure I get this guy's name right. So my favorite UDFA signing was actually an edge rusher. So Elijah Ponder, the edge rusher out of, where is it? Cal Poly. I don't think I've ever heard of that college before, but Elijah Ponder, the edge rusher, he was a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be drafted. So I think from a pure value standpoint, the best guy they've picked up is definitely Elijah Ponder off of the edge there. But like I said, I'll definitely be breaking those guys down a little bit more this week in a video. But early on, like you got it. Land Larson, the running back, Efton Chisholm, the wide receiver, and then obviously Elijah Ponder. Those are my top guys to watch from a UDFA standpoint. Owen comes in here with another really good question. He says, do we need another slot corner beyond Marcus Jones? So Elliot Wolf was kind of asked about this a little bit because they didn't really target cornerback the way that I thought maybe they could. They didn't target cornerback until they got Mr. Irrelevant himself in name is escaping me right now. Where is it? In Kobe Minor. That's who it is. So Kobe Minor, 7th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant. That is where the Patriots went to cornerback, and the only time they went to cornerback. He's somebody that is a little bit smaller. He's like 5'10", 5'11" when I looked it up. So he's a bit on the smaller side. He's not a big guy. He ran like a 4.56. So I think he's going to compete to play in the slot. Now, Ellie Wolf did say that Kobe Minor has that inside-outside versatility, so I think he's someone they view as someone that can play all over that defensive formation. But I do agree that while Marcus Jones is a good slot cornerback, his injury history on top of being mainly a special teamer, he's not someone that I think you want to rely on to play 100% of your defensive snaps there at slot cornerback. But I think what we are going to see is that we're going to see one of these other cornerbacks that are projected to be outside guys. We're going to see them play as a bit of a bigger slot cornerback. And Ellie Wolf also kind of alluded to that. We could see Alex Austin playing a little bit there, slot cornerback. I think we could also see Marcellus Dial. That is a guy that Elliot Wolf named himself as someone who could play in the slot. And then also Isaiah Bolden, another guy that I think will have some of that slot opportunity. So guys for me to watch as that depth slot cornerback behind Marcus Jones, Isaiah Bolden, Marcellus Dial, and then the rookie Kobe Minor. So watch that as we approach training camp, because I think that's also going to be a battle for who your starting slot cornerback is going to be. I also want to make sure we open this on up into the Patreon members. So if you are a Patreon member and you kind of want to come on here, share your thoughts on the draft, ask any questions, share your thoughts on anything, you guys can have that opportunity to do so. I'm going to post that for you guys here right now. Here we go. Post draft Q&A. All right, Patreon members, that is officially up for you guys, but we'll continue to answer questions while we see if anybody rolls on in here. Colby, do you think that Coach Springer, the special teams coach, could develop these young guys on special teams because our special teams is really young? Another really, really good question here. And I do. You know, last year, the Patriots had one of the best special teams units in the NFL. They had a top 5 special teams unit, according to PFF. This is despite them in 2023 and 2024 having one of the worst special teams units. So Springer came in 1 year, despite how bad the culture was, despite how bad the roster was, despite how bad, just the lack of identity we had was because of Mayo. And he came in and completely transformed that special teams. What is he going to look like with another year under his belt with guys who maybe, are going to be a little bit better? I think he's going to get an upgrade there with special teams players, especially when it comes from a blocking standpoint up there in the trenches. That's why I think Will Campbell is another underrated draft sign in there by the Patriots, is because he's not going to help them just on offense, but he's also going to help them in terms of special teams. And if you look at it, like Mike Vrabel came in here and he got rid of pretty much the entire coaching staff that Gerard Mayo had brought in last year, right? He got rid of AVP. He got rid of DeMarcus Covington. He got rid of a lot of defensive coaches. He got rid of the entire offensive coaching staff. So the fact that he kept Jeremy Springer on special teams as that special teams coordinator, I think goes a long way at really giving, Jeremy Springer his props. So yeah, I think that Jeremy Springer is going to make this another top 5 special teams unit in the NFL. A young guy too. And I think because he's so young, he's able to kind of understand how these younger players are coming out of the draft and how they transition to like a modern day version of the NFL. And I think he just connects with players on a deeper level also. Well, let's go ahead and let's get our boy DTN on here and let's see what he's got to say about the Patriots draft. A Patreon member, as always, if you guys want to be a Patreon member, link in the description box below. But DTN, brother, how we doing?
I am doing great. I just had dinner, so I managed to be able to get back into my dorm and be able to discuss this.
I love it, man. I love it. How do you think the Patriots draft went? Now, I know you were part of the watch party on day 1, but I don't think we've talked about it since. So I know we already heard your thoughts on Will Campbell, but what were your thoughts there on day 2 and day 3?
So basically, just to FYI for everybody, before I get in my thoughts, at 8 o'clock, I will be doing a live stream on my thoughts on the draft grades. But if I want to give my early access to this, so I thought that initially I was in like a voice chat with a couple of buddies in the Discord, and I thought like I was so uncertain with like the order that the Patriots went when it comes to the draft. But the fact that they went BPA, also known as best player available, the fact that you went in and get Travion Henderson, who is like to be one of like the next James White, I thought that he could be like your third down running back. So like Stevenson doesn't have to get that chunk of the bulk. Henderson doesn't have to get that chunk of the bulk. So I think that what Josh McDaniels is going to be doing coming regular season time, I think that he is going to be like a secret weapon for us, like if used correctly.
I agree. Now, DTN, let us know, what was your favorite pick from the draft and what was maybe your least favorite pick of the draft?
My favorite boy, Swinson. So like, it's my favorite draft because I was dialed in on Swinson the moment I was working on my live mock draft. So like if Sawyer is not available or if like Kyle Kennard is available, Swinson was like my favorite guy all along, because when I look at his stats, the fact that he racked up 8.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles last season at LSU, this guy is a dog. This guy, and when I saw his like his reel on Instagram, this guy is ready. You got like a dog in him, and he could be like your next Matthew Judon pick. But I'm not gonna like jump on the board and saying like he's gonna be the next Matthew Judon, because obviously he said that he's gonna be like one of those versatile players on the defense. So I can't wait to see what Swinson's going to be doing paired with Harold Landry.
Yeah, I think from like a pure value standpoint, the Patriots got a lot of good value picks in this draft. Like if you look at it, Will Campbell, I understand some people wanted to trade down, but 3 offensive linemen went in the top 10 alone. There was only one player that fell to day 2. That was Ariante Ursary. He fell to day 2 out of all of the projected starters there at tackle. So best offensive lineman in the draft, hands down, in my opinion. So I think that was just a good selection by the Patriots. They definitely didn't reach on Will Campbell, in my opinion. And then you get TreVeyon Henderson. And some people have said maybe it's a little bit too early for him. I don't agree with that statement. I think that if Amari and Hampton went in like the mid to late teens, that we would have seen like the Chargers go and get TreVeyon Henderson. Leading up to day 1, TreVeyon Henderson had a lot of hype as a potential back end of the first round selection. And the Patriots, they get him there staying pat at 38 in the second. I thought that he was someone that a team was either going to take early in the second, maybe the Patriots would have to trade up for, and he falls into their laps. I think that was an excellent value selection there by New England. And then you look at Swinson, a guy like you just mentioned, he was someone who on PFF's big board, they had at 47, and the Patriots got him at what, like 146? So that was excellent value. Someone who was projected to go in rounds 2 to 3, and the Patriots get him in the 5th. Even Joshua Farmer, a guy that was projected late 2nd, early to mid 3rd rounder, and the Patriots get him with one of the final picks in the 4th round. He would have fell to the 5th round. So really, really good value there by the Patriots all around in this draft. But I would have to agree with you. Swinson was overall the best value pick that the Patriots got.
Yeah, I think that another point, Ashton also said in the chat that I was literally begging in the Discord to draft Swinson. I really did, because I thought like if we don't get draft Shore, Swinson was like the next guy up on my board, just because we desperately needed an edge rusher. And I thought that we could have gotten an edge rusher out of day 2 because he had so many good edge rushers. But I think the mindset of what Mike Vrabel, Elliot Wolf wanted to do is like to get some of the other best players available. So like my least favorite pick, unfortunately, I thought it was going to be like Julian Asby, because I thought that originally, because I thought that getting a long snapper, we could have gotten him like UDFA, but there could have been some like other competition like within the UDFA. So like getting him at the 6th round, he could be like he could be a lock at long snapper. It just depends on like if he is better than Joe Cardona, considering that Joe Cardona, he's up in age. He has dealt with some lingering injuries here and there, So I think that I also love the Julian Ashby pick. But when it comes to like my least favorite pick, it has to be the Craig Woodson pick, because I thought I like this guy, considering that you might need safety depth, but I just did not think that safety was like on my radar, considering that you have other positions that you need to fill, considering like edge was one of them, but we finally got an edge rusher. But I think left guard could have been a position that could have been like secured, and like you can run away with like a left guard, considering that you have so many unknowns at left guard.
Yeah, I think if Andrew Makuba had fell to the 3rd round, I think that would have been a guy that would have had a lot of interest in. Supposedly, Craig Woodson was the Patriots were the only 30 visit he had. He had a 30 visit with them. He had another visit with them, and he was the Patriots were the only NFL team to do so. So he was like, I knew I was going to the Patriots because the Patriots were the only team that showed interest in me. But Andrew Makuba, I think, went so early that they were like, okay, let's pivot to plan B at free safety. And I think that's what Craig Woodson is. I've heard some people say like, hey, I'm projecting him to play closer to the line of scrimmage. I don't agree with that statement. And I think that Craig Woodson, he can play everywhere. 146 snaps this past season in the slot, 266 in the box, but 335 playing deep, and then a 523 snaps playing free safety in 2023. This was a guy that got better every single year, a true free safety, really good in coverage, an 85.6 run defensive grade, a 21.1% forced incompletion rate, and only an 8.6 missed tackle rate. This is a guy that has a high football IQ. He's really, really smart. He plays really well in all 3 phases. I think he could really compete early on to be the Patriots starting free safety. But again, I agree with you that it was probably the most surprising pick that they had, because you start off there on day 3 in the 4th round. You got Jack Sawyer still on the board. We all thought that was the direction the Patriots were going to go. I think they could have gotten Craig Woodson a little bit later, but I do believe that if they made that selection when they did, it's probably because they got some type of intel that maybe another team was looking to draft him. Because, again, all draft long, the Patriots made the correct pick. They make really good value picks. I don't think all of a sudden to start day 3, they would have reached on a player unless they got intel that, maybe he was going to go sooner than they originally expected.
Another point I did not realize with the Craig Woodson pick. So, you still have Kyle Duggar and you still have Jabril Peppers, but I think that getting Craig Woodson to at least someone of a Devin McCourty, because I think that with Devin McCourty's retirement and his departure from the NFL, I think you're leaving somewhat of a gaping hole that Devin McCourty played at that position, because when I think that when Duggar or Jabril Peppers tried to play at that position, I think they failed. I think they were misused miserably. So I think that getting a free safety along with Duggar and Peppers, you at least someone have a Devin McCourty type guy, because you somewhat need a free safety. I didn't realize about that until when I realized that you still need a free safety.
I agree. Well, any other thoughts here, DTM, before we get on to the next Patreon member?
Sure. Obviously, once again, I'll send you the link. It's Patriots Talk. You should go check out that live stream at 8. I was considering, Colby, that you could be my my co-host for that live stream, but I know you have some other plans. I don't know if you have other plans afterwards. So
hey man, let's definitely set something up. Talk to me in the Discord, and we'll definitely
I sent
find a time. I'm definitely willing to come on the channel.
Yeah, I sent you a friend request. So if we can have some time to chat, I'm willing to chat with you on some of the stuff I wanted to discuss. But yeah,
perfect, man.
Hope you guys are excited for that live stream. I can't wait to see some of you guys here and give you my early thoughts on the draft grades, and then we'll get to Kobe's discussions on the draft grades tomorrow.
Perfect, man. I'm always willing to come on to the channel. Shout out to DTN for coming on, man. DTN, make sure you let everybody know in the comment section below. Leave a link or something like that, so they can come and check you out.
I'll send a link in a couple.
Perfect.
When I'm out of here.
Perfect. Everybody check out DTN for some more Patriots-related content, man. I love it. Let's go ahead and let's get on to the next Patreon member. Before we do that, though, Levi comes in here and says, PG, do you think the Pats are going to make a big move anytime soon, like a trade or a sign? And did AVP go anywhere? Did Mayo go, and the defensive coordinator? So I do believe, if I remember correctly, I do believe that DeMarcus Covington did go somewhere. I know he had an interview with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he might be. Oh, no. So he had an interview with the Cincinnati Bengals for their defensive coordinator. They went somewhere else. And then DeMarcus Covington was hired by the Green Bay Packers to be their defensive line coach. So DeMarcus Covington is the defensive line coach there for the Packers. I want to say Alex Van Pelt is working for the Giants right now as some type of assistant. Oh, no, he's actually working for the Rams. So Alex Van Pelt is working as a senior offensive assistant for the Los Angeles Rams. And then as for Mayo is nowhere to be found. I think about this at least once a week. We never heard a statement from Gerard Mayo. We never heard from Gerard Mayo. Nobody has seen from Gerard Mayo. Nobody knows where this guy is working. Gerard Mayo was fired. He left Gillette Stadium, and this dude is MIA in the woods somewhere. Haven't seen or heard from this guy, period. I'm kind of concerned about him. We should probably do a wellness check on Gerard Mayo. But as for do I think the Pats are going to make a trade or anything like that anytime soon? I don't. Now, the Patriots have enough money to where they could take money from, the next few years if they wanted to make a big move. They're not held bet against the cap to where if there's a guy that's available, they're not able to make one. But I think they've made so many moves in the draft. They've picked up a lot of UDFAs. They made a lot of moves in free agency. Currently, the Patriots are at actually, I think they released 4 players today. So I think there are still 3 players over the 90-man roster right now. I think there's so many new guys that they don't want to make another move. There's no reason for this team to go all in on one offseason. Let's build this thing up correctly over the next couple of years. And the best way to do so is by doing it year by year. Because if you try to get everybody in the building, make all these huge moves in 1 year, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see what you have in-house. If the Patriots want to see what they have in this draft class, last year's draft class, UDFAs, They need to make sure that they're able to prioritize those guys, make sure that those guys are developed and actually given the adequate attention that those guys need. So I don't think that a big move is going to happen for the Patriots. I still think that we could see some, bigger signings. And when I say bigger, I mean like guys with actual value. But I would expect to see that more so around training camp. I would expect to see that during roster cutdowns if we're going to start seeing some guys signed with some actual name value. But as for like a big move, like a wide receiver one or something like that, I just don't see it happening. I also think, too, that they want to make sure they roll into next season with enough money and draft capital in case there's a last-minute move they want to make. Because what if the Patriots start off the season way hotter than we expect? Maybe they get to the trade deadline and they're like, yo, we need to get, an upgrade at wide receiver. Let's make a trade before the NFL trade deadline. That's always an option too. But let's go ahead and let's bring on our next Patreon member. You guys know him. You guys love him. Big time super chat donator. Let's bring him on in. SGT Moonshine, baby. How you doing, brother?
Yo, what's good? How we doing, Pats Nation?
Man, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I've been getting into a new job and starting a new job this last couple weeks now, working day shift for the first time ever. It's been a bit of an adjustment, but I'm feeling good.
I love that, man. So what did you think about the Patriots draft class? I don't think we've heard about your thoughts yet.
So it's really hard to really even say where they might have fallen off. Not even just the draft, but all of the offseason in general, from free agency to our actual draft picks to our UDFAs. I don't see a lot of where we did any wrong. It's been hit after hit after hit. I will say I do agree with DTN about the one player that I wasn't really a big fan of would probably be Craig Woodson at 106, mainly because of who was it that was there on the board still? I think it was Jack Sawyer, if I remember correctly. He was still on the board there, and I was hoping to get him. And they ended up going Craig Woodson, and I think we actually ended up trading a pick to a team that actually selected him. I just don't remember what team that was.
The Steelers. The Steelers ended up getting him.
Oh, it was the Steelers. Okay, that's right. But other than that, I mean, really, number 4 pick, our tackle, Will Campbell. There's nothing really you need to say about that. I actually watched his first day on the New England Patriots YouTube channel. Watched that. He gives a bit of a old soul vibe. If you know what I'm talking about there.
I agree.
His voice, his demeanor, his respect, like he just gives off an old soul vibe. It's very weird. It's kind of weird in a sense for me. But,
yeah, something you don't see all the time for sure. But I think there's a lot of value in that too, because you're going to get a guy that's a leader. Like I think he could be a captain.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He just gave off like that. I am going to be here. I am going to work my ass off. I am going to lead. I am going to show that I deserve to be here. He just, but at the same time, he was like humble. He was very chill. It was so much you could like about him. Not really you couldn't like about him.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have a selection that maybe was your least favorite?
As far as like draft picks or just all over for the offseason?
Draft picks.
As far as draft, the only one that really does come to mind would probably be Craig Woodson, just because I feel like he would have been there later on, like our 4th round pick at 137. I do feel like he would have still been there, or maybe even a 5th rounder. I would have preferred to have had Jack Sawyer there at 106, but I'm not mad about it. I do feel like he can definitely, when me and DTM were talking about when we were actually watching the draft together, I had looked into him because none of us really knew much about him. Looked into him, kind of read his stats, what he did on the team he played for, California, and he definitely seemed to be more of like that kind of deep safety, the one that can sit in the backfield on an island and kind of watch the quarterback, see what reads he's going to, seeing how the field is going to develop to see where he needs to be. He definitely gives that kind of vibe off to me.
What were your thoughts when they went Travion Henderson there in the 2nd round? Because obviously a lot of Patriots fans, they wanted Ashton Genty. I was very much of the mindset of you do not go running back in the first. I was also someone who thought, you know what, go running back the earliest third round. I said if they went in the second, I wouldn't necessarily love it, but as long as it's not in the first, like, all right, I guess you have an argument. And then they get Travion Henderson, like we said earlier with DTN, a guy that was a projected early second and had a lot of hype to be a back end of the first round selection there. Patriots get him there at 38. They don't have to trade up. They stay pat. He falls in their laps. What were your thoughts on that selection?
I'm going to be honest. For first off, whoever thought that we were going to get Ashton Genty when we need help on the O-line, I mean, it's nice to have the toys, but if you don't have someone protecting them, it's not going to be a lot of fun. But as far as Travion Henderson, I didn't know too much about him really. Cause all I know is that the running back class was like super deep this year. I didn't really think to look too much into them. So I didn't really look into him until like the day he was drafted, or I think it was maybe the day after I watched some of his highlights. And he's a bit of a jack of all trades. He can run good on the inside. He can escape on the outside. He can break a tackle or two, but he'll really excel when he has the blocks ready for him and he gets a little gaping hole. If he can get to that one hole into the second level, I don't see many DBs that are going to be able to bring him down. He's going to maybe break him, maybe stiff arm him. He's going to get up the field, go for like a 20-plus yarder. But, I mean, if he can't escape that, if he can't escape the interior, if they got it loaded up in the box, I do feel like they would have an advantage on him there, because it just seems like he doesn't have a whole lot of situational awareness around him, or not much of a, peripheral vision, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Granted, he does have a helmet, so that kind of obscures your vision a little bit, but still, he wasn't really going sometimes where the blocks were, or he was just getting maybe a little too overwhelmed with the presence around him. But overall, I do like the pick. He's definitely an explosive player. If he can get those blocks right and he can hit that second level, just don't try. Like, you're not getting him. There's very few DBs that I would see actually being able to bring him down to open field or even catching to him, because he's an explosive runner too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, another question for you too is that, as stupid as it might sound, I feel like there's a lot of Patriots fans that were a little bit up in arms by that late 7th round pick there with Julian Ashby, the lawn snapper. And I think that Patriots Loco, he says this beautifully. Shout out to Patriots Loco in the chat, man, big time supporter. He says, it's not all about guys doing anything wrong. Cardona is a Bill Belichick guy. Vrabel wants his guys. And I think that Loco puts that beautifully, right? Like I said earlier, Vrabel wants guys who are the next generation of the Patriots. He doesn't want guys that are tied back to Belichick and Brady and the old era. He doesn't want everybody thinking about Belichick and Brady and when we used to go to Super Bowls. He wants everybody to start switching their focus into the Patriots 2.0, Mike Vrabel's and Drake Maye's New England Patriots, not the old Patriot way, which is why I think Joe Cardona could be on the outside looking in. What were your thoughts on the Patriots going with a lawn snapper in the 7th?
I don't hate it. We definitely could use the help on the special team side. I know we did pretty good last year, but it doesn't help to improve. I can't even really think of who was our long snapper for this past year. I'm not very familiar with some of the long snappers in the NFL in general, but I am glad we got somebody there in the body. If any, somebody in there in the building, if anything, just to be a camp body to kind of give some production, some competition, just to see what you got there. I don't really know a whole lot about him, but I do like the pick. You need to have those kind of guys that are good in certain roles. It's good to have a guy that can be a specialist all over the field, like someone who can play like all over in the secondary, or someone who's like a weapon on the offense playing at any position. But you need some guys like a good old long snapper that's good at what they do, because you don't have a good long snapper, you could have a botch kick. People don't think about that.
No, yeah, I think you put that perfectly too. And, the special teams unit, it got better last year, but they still had some struggles with, muffing punts and blocked punts and blocked kicks and botched, snaps here and there. So, I think that is a really, really good point that you made. And my last question for you, because I think Patriots Local brings up another good question or good statement here. He says, my trade wish list for the Patriots, as in guys on the roster he would like to see the Patriots trade, includes Ramondre Stevenson, Kyle Duggar, Jelani Tavai, Jalen Polk, Kendrick Bourne, and Vidarian Lowe. Now, my thoughts on this, Ramondre Stevenson, as long as he's not fumbling all offseason, I think that he is somebody that they ultimately keep because I think he's a really good change of pace running back with somebody like, that Travion Henderson. Because I think, you look at Antonio Gibson, he's more that redundant running back to Travion Henderson. Ramondre's that put your shoulder down, run through a mother effer, and Travion Henderson is I'm going to run around a guy. I'm going to run past a guy, not necessarily I'm going to run through a guy. So I think if any running back is on the outside looking in, it would be Antonio Gibson, but it really wouldn't surprise me if they keep all three of those guys because, again, like I said earlier in the stream, Josh McDaniels loves that running back by committee and not necessarily that bell cow running back. As for Duggar, I would say that Duggar I still think is a guy that probably ultimately ends up making the roster, but I think there's going to be a true battle in that secondary at the safety position because there's so many guys there. I would actually say that, Jabril Peppers is probably the guy on the outside looking in versus Kyle Duggar. Duggar just got that big extension. I believe that Peppers is entering like a contract year. And on top of that, the allegations that Peppers had, Mike Vrabel, not going to stand for it, especially with trying to build the culture. We also know that Robert Kraft is not going to stand for those allegations also. So if anything, as much as I love Peppers, the player, he could be on the guy on the outside looking in. As for Tavai, I definitely think that he could be a potential trade candidate. I think it just depends on, how do some of these depth linebackers perform in training camp? And then, excuse me, as for Jalen Polk, I do think that he does stay on the roster. I think if there's any wide receivers on the outside looking in, it would be Javon Baker. It would be Kendrick Bourne more specifically in terms of trade value. We know that a report came out that they're looking to potentially trade somebody like Kayshon Boutte. So Boutte, someone who could be on the outside looking in. And as for Vidarian Lowe, like if the Patriots got like a 5th round pick or better for him, okay, I definitely consider trading Vidarian Lowe, but right now the team also needs depth behind their starters. Last year, the Patriots didn't just need starters, but they had so many injuries that they showed that the team also needs to build up that depth. So I could see them keeping Vidarian Lowe as a depth left tackle. Any guys on this list that you feel could or should be traded?
On this list, not too really. As far as Stevenson, he's probably going to be sticking around for at least another year. See how he handles the Vrabel offense. See if he can improve on just holding the dang ball. But I'm about to get PTSD. Better not. Anyways, Duggar. Duggar, I'm a little torn on because as far as like players on the defensive side, he's probably like my top second, maybe my top third favorite player on the defensive side, if not the entire team. So it would kind of hurt me to say like trade him. It really all depends on his production this year, how he does between him and I would probably say Peppers. As far as I know about Peppers, his like allegations and stuff, all of that got disproven. But again, Vrabel probably won't tolerate it regardless if it was disproven or not. Because that's just extra outside noise you don't need.
Yeah.
Tavai, I don't really know how much they would really get out of Tavai, in all honesty. Jalen Polk is going to be probably a roster lock. They just drafted him. I still believe they see some promise in him, and I do as well. I think it was just a bad year all around last year. The staff just wasn't utilizing him correctly, as you've stated multiple times. Vidarian Lowe, he's just a depth piece. They could trade him, but I would need to see some depth back there before I'd even consider it. And even if you do trade him, yeah, you might get a 5th, but like a 5th for like in 2027 or something. But I don't know anything about this coming year's draft capital. As far as trades, it's probably going to be Kayshon Boutte. I'm trying to remember all the receive. Maybe I don't know if they'll do it or not. I think he only signed like a $4 million deal for 1 year. Maybe Mac Hollins, possibly, if they feel they don't need him. Maybe Pop Douglas. Hear me out on that one.
Interesting.
Pop Douglas, I love him as a player. I really do. The only problem is he doesn't really stay on the field that long. And he can't. He gets hurt when he's on the field from, I'm not going to like trash on him or anything, but it's just like his durability is not good. It's not that good. He's a good every so often player getting like on the third down or something like that. If you really need something, he'll definitely get you to yards. He's a guy that'll get you to yards. It's just durability for me. I think Kyle Williams could come in and fill for that role like easily. You also got Stefon Diggs who can play pretty well in the slot. And have like Jalen Polk on the outside. Bourne, I'd see them probably keeping. Maybe I don't know what they'll do about Bourne to be honest. Receiver room is just so loaded right now. Like I'm seeing like because I made myself my own depth chart of like the entire team, trying to get all like the UDFAs just for like training camp roster. And I got like I'm seeing like 11 or 12 names in this wide receiver room. It's just insane. A lot of guys I like.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, SGT, any last thoughts here before we get on to the next Patreon member?
No, I think I'm good. I am excited for this season. I will say that. I am very, very excited. This has been a complete 180 from the last couple years we've gotten. I'm excited. I don't see us being a playoff team. I will say that. I'm not too sure if I see us being a playoff team. At least not yet. I want us to get into training camp and hear what we got there, see who's playing well, who's not, who's actually there and who's not. And then maybe going into the preseason, maybe after the first game or so, I'll really for sure know if we'd make the postseason or not. But as for right now, it looks good on paper, guys. But remember, there's a lot of teams that have teams that look good on paper and they don't turn out. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't get your hopes up yet.
I agree. I think you put that beautifully. Shout out to SG Moonshine, a Patreon member, for coming in here and kicking it with us, supporting the channel, man. Absolutely means a lot. And I think Mike here, longtime supporter of the channel, also said it best. You know, Vrabel started no entitlement this year, or stated, no entitlement this year for players. Got to earn everything. Nobody is a lock. And I think that they want to build competition. That's like their big philosophy heading into spring practices and heading into summer practices is nobody's guaranteed anything. I don't care how long you've been here. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how good you think you are. If you've talked back in the past, you've had off the field issues in the past, then I promise you, I'm going to hold that against you, right? Everybody gets a new opportunity. Everybody gets a fresh start here with Mike Vrabel. And for some players, that's going to be a great thing to hear. For some players, though, that's going to be a very scary thing to hear, and it's going to be an uphill battle for some teams. I definitely think that Jalen Polk is a lock to make this. Well, man, I mean, maybe not a lock, but I'm going to say he's pretty close to being a lock. That second-round pick, a high second-round pick. Elliot Wolf coming out and saying that it was the Patriots' fault that, he didn't develop down the stretch. He showed a lot of promise in the offseason, a good connection with Drake Maye. He showed even a lot of promise throughout the first 4 weeks. I mean, some of the insane catches he was making down the sideline outside the numbers against the 49ers was insane. So if anything, I think Javon Baker's off the roster, but I do think that Jalen Polk does make this roster. But I definitely think I'm going to make a video breaking down this wide receiver core because I think there's a lot of questions about it. But I do think that that was the last Patreon member we had in here. So with that being said, we are going to call it for the day, man. An hour and 17-minute live stream breaking down the latest on the New England Patriots. The other thing I want to say, guys, is that we have rookie minicamp starting. I want to say it's mid to late May. So we got, rookie minicamp a little bit later than usual, but that'll be right around the corner. Of course, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Follow me on all social media platforms. Twitter at Patriots Global 2, Instagram at Patriots Global, TikTok at Patriots Global, because we're going to start getting pictures from these guys, these rookies in minicamp. We're going to start getting news from these guys. We got OTA sessions right around the bend. Soon enough, we are going to have mandatory minicamp, and that is going to lead us right into the beginning of training camp. Every single little piece of news we have, I'm going to cover you guys for. When we get pictures of these guys, I'm going to break it down. When we get news from the media attending practices, I'm going to break that down. Just like I break down training camp every single year, I'm going to be doing that for minicamp, OTAs, all that good stuff. This is going to be your one-stop shop for everything involving the New England Patriots. You want to first look at these rookies in Patriots gear. This is going to be the place to do so. We will be doing more Q&A sessions like this down the road. In fact, maybe we'll even do a Q&A session like this once a week because it seemed like you guys really, really liked it. Tomorrow, we are going to be doing a live stream breaking down each individual selection for the New England Patriots for their 2025 draft class. I'm going to give my grades on each player, and then I'm going to give my overall grade for this Patriots 2025 draft class. So make sure you guys go ahead and kick it with us. If you guys want to learn more about the prospects from this Patriots draft class, my reaction, my analysis on each player, make sure you guys check out my YouTube at Patriots Global. We have that linked here in the live chat to the playlist for all of those player analyses. But other than that, guys, make sure to leave a big like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel for all your New England Patriots news. And until next time, I appreciate you guys for watching, and go Pats.